have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world. When you hit that play button, so glad you did. You know you're in the right place at the right time. You are listening to the Genesis Frequency Podcast. This podcast is about personal, professional, and leadership development, making your dreams come true, whatever they may be for you as an individual, personally in your life, as a small business owner, or as a member of the corporate team, wherever that may be within your corporate environment. If you're living on purpose, living your passion, and you're in a corporate environment, it's all good. What does the dream look like? What do you want to achieve? Moving forward, we're going to be talking more about leadership development, and we will be talking about the pillars of leadership. And I'm going to be moving into the elements of achievement, 5 keys to achievement. But I want to cover a couple things first in this episode that are just been really gnawing at me to to revisit again. I say revisit because we're approaching 300 episodes here in 6 years, I think, something like that, or we're in the sixth year. And I've talked about the law of assumption. I've talked a lot about imagination. I've talked a lot about manifesting and our feelings and moving from where we are to where we want to be. That's really what this is all about, using the laws of infinite potential, universal laws, cooperating with them by understanding them and how they work in the realm of cause and effect, because we are governed by them. So that's really what this show is all about, because the effect is our own personal and professional development. We want to develop, right? We want to develop personally. We want to develop professionally. We want to develop in the corporate environment. We want to develop the business. We want to grow the business. We want to achieve the corporate goals. We want things for ourselves as an individual. We look at 6, 7 areas of our lives and set goals in those areas, and we want to move into the realization of those goals. But there are very specific laws that govern achievement, that govern our performance and productivity and what's showing up, what's being made manifest in our world of experience. And sometimes when I get to mainstream, I tend to drift away from some of these things that we don't hear a lot about, especially on the professional side of things. It's all about language. I've said this many, many times. It's about language. It's about the words we use. It's about the way we communicate and talk about, well, this material here, for example. I can use certain words to communicate in a certain way with one group of individuals, and I have to use and choose different words when I'm in a different environment. But that doesn't change the law. It doesn't change causation. Cause will always equal an effect, right? There has to be some kind of cause. Can we influence it? Can we impact it? Yeah, we're in charge of it. And this is consciously and unconsciously. If you are unfamiliar, and I would go as far as to say ignorant of the laws of cause and effect, it they're still at work. right? And I'm going to share a couple things from Neville. I did a whole series on the power of awareness and the law of assumption from Neville Goddard. And it's been quite some time, and I realize I have new listeners all the time. So, in fact, it's been several years actually since I did that piece. And it was, I don't know, I think about 13, somewhere between 13 and 17 episodes. Of course, you can find it all in the website, thegenesisfrequency.com, and go back. There's a boatload. Everything is there, by the way, tremendous value. I need to put all that. If you are a creator and really good at this stuff, I need to put all this together in a box set and just sell this thing and sail off to the sunset, because there is so much tremendous value in these podcasts that aren't costing you a thing. And I found that and this to be true, and I've heard this from many great prosperity teachers, is that people in general put very, 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 very little value, and in most cases, no value on that which they receive for free. Now, don't get me wrong. I have some premium programs. We talk, and you get involved in one of my programs. I have programs from $6,000 to $40,000 and everything in between. And below that, too, as well. In fact, if you're a listener, we have conversations. We'll have conversations for no charge. But think about that. It's human nature. We place little or no value on that which we get for free. So I just bring that up just so you don't underestimate the value here. I tongue in cheek say I'm Dr. Cause. It's a little top of mind remembering tool so you remember the show, and playing off probably a little bit of Dr. Oz and his popularity, but I am Dr. Cause. It's part of my last name, Dr. Kuzmina. But I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a metaphysician. My doctoral degree is in philosophy, metaphysics, and a focus on the power of our subconscious mind and imagination, and how we utilize those parts of us, those elements of us, in a certain way to make manifest the desires of our hearts. So, again, communication and language is so very important when I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to different groups and talking to different individuals. If I go and do a keynote in a corporate environment, I'm going to use different languages as it pertains to leadership, as it pertains to personal and professional development. If I'm talking to a group of individuals that came to a body, mind, and spirit festival or conference or event, and they're looking at the law of attraction and the law of assumption and manifestation, I'll use a different language. I'll communicate in a different way with those individuals. But again, the law is the same. The law does not change, right? So, preceding attraction principles, preceding what shows up in our lives, preceding the results we achieve. Let's talk in the corporate environment. What's showing up? What are the corporate goals to get there? What do we have to do? What are the laws that are going to support the achievement of those corporate goals? In our small business, what do we have to be familiar with to achieve what we want to do in our small business? In our personal life, we want to realize and experience certain things. We want to live the life we would love living, right? What are the laws we have to cooperate? What are the laws of cause and effect? What are they governed by? And some of the biggest things we really, really need to reemphasize, and that's the purpose of this show today, is to talk a little bit about imagination, assumption, and feeling, the feeling tone that we put into imagination and assumption, so we can make manifest and or realize and or achieve our corporate goals. See the different language here? So we can make manifest our goals and dreams, so we can realize the life we would love to live, so we can achieve our corporate goals and our professional ambitions. So when we look at imagination, for instance. We have to, we talk a lot here on this show about crystallizing our thinking and imagining the life we would love to live, because nothing shows up out of nothing. Everything that we see and experience in our lives was first created somewhere in mind using the power of imagination. It was imagined, it was thought of. So we could say it all begins with thought. We have a thought. We should already all be aware that we have this power of thinking, that we have the ability to choose what thoughts we think. We have the ability to decide what thoughts we will engage with and sustain rather than just brushing them off. So we have this power to choose, we have this power to decide. And when something moves us, stimulates a feeling within us, we start to work with that thought. We start to develop that thought. We like that thought, for instance. So we're moving feeling tone into it. Yeah. And we call these things ideas, right? I like that idea. That's why everything that you see in the world has been created twice. Somebody had an idea, the better mousetrap, the better sound system, the better TV, anything, the better table, the better chair, the better car, the better bicycle, the better anything, or even the first one. Somebody had an idea and it stimulated some kind of feeling within them. And they decided to run with it, to engage that thought, to develop that thought using what? The power of imagination, to create something new, to create something better, to create something that was improved on from the previous version, right? And that's what we're always doing with ourselves as well. So this is so key. This is so very, very, very important to realize that you have the power and to take responsibility for that power to choose your thoughts and to make a decision. Am I going to engage with this thought and run it through some filters? Does this thought serve what I want to show up in my life? Does it support what I want to show up in my life? Does this thought contribute to what I want to show up in my life? And a lot of those thoughts, remember, I say all the time, we have 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are the same thoughts that we had yesterday. And most of them are not supportive, and most of them are rooted and grounded in worry, doubt, and fear, or anxiety about a future that doesn't exist. So we need to be focused on the present moment, run our thoughts through a filter, choose the thoughts we're going to work with and develop, and then engage the power of our imagination to develop these thoughts, to develop these ideas. Now, let me share just a couple sentences from Neville Goddard on imagination that you don't probably hear this a lot, if at all. And Neville says that imagination is both conservative and transformative. It is conservative when it builds its world from images supplied by memory and the evidence of the senses. It is creatively transformative when it imagines things as they ought to be, building its world out of the generous dreams of fancy. So think about that. One more sentence here. In the procession of images, the ones that take precedence naturally are those of the senses. So, what he's talking about here is these ideas that come from programming, right? From paradigms, from the multitude of habits that are so indelibly impressed on our subconscious mind, from the input from the world around us. I talk about this a lot. And when we do that, our imagination tends to be conservative. We're imagining things, but we're imagining on a foundation of everything that we've learned, come to understand, witnessed up until this point, wherever you are in your lives. So we're using our imagination, but it's based on experience and it's based on input from the world around us. The real growth comes if we're looking and taking apart these couple sentences here is the real growth comes. I mean, the quantum leap comes from we imagine things from the endpoint, how they ought to be. We don't have that input yet about how we're going to get there, how we're going to do it. We know how they ought to be, and we imagine a world that we're living in, and it ought to be this way. We have no idea how, and that's okay because how is none of your business. So we're just imagining from this place. We're imagining from where? We're not imagining from here, from a place of limitation, of worry, doubt, and fear, or any of that stuff. We're imagining from a place of how it ought to be. Now, think about this in every area of your life, both tangible and intangible. How it ought to be. How should your life be? My life ought to be one that's filled with a bank account that is, plug in the number. My personal life should be filled and ought to be personal life that is fulfilling because I am experience. Fill it in and go through every area of your life. How ought it to be? And see, when we start to imagine from the end game, when we start to go into that transformative mode, because that's our desire is this quantum leap goal achievement and this radical personal and professional transformation. We don't want to stay in the conservative side. I mean, you can always go back there. It's your imagination and you get to choose. But to to bring to your life something different that hasn't been experienced before, to step out of your comfort zone is and to be truly transformative. We don't want to rely on just the evidence that the senses has supplied us. I think it was the last episode or the episode before that I was talking about the 4 minute mile. Now everybody runs the 4 minute mile once it was thought impossible. So we want to engage those thoughts and those ideas that are supportive on how things ought to be, according to our desires, according to our wants, our aspirations, our wishes, goals that we have set for ourselves. So that's where we're engaging the imagination and engaging it in a transformative way. So that's what we're going to talk about moving forward. And I realize I haven't said a whole bunch yet, but I'm just setting this up yet, and we're almost out of time. So just know moving forward, we're going to be spending the setup here in this episode, just talking a little bit here about conservative conservative imagination and transformative imagination. And then we're going to move into assumption. And I want to share just a couple sentences to set this up, because then we're going to talk about the feeling tone, moving that in and then manifesting what's showing up, what we want to show up, how things ought to be in our lives. So we'll be doing all that, and then we'll move into some few episodes down the stretch. We'll move into some of the elements of achievement here. Um, so what I want to share, and just before we wrap this up today, is another another sentence from Neville Goddard, and that's talking about what I've set up until this point. He starts off a chapter in the, I think this is Power of Awareness, Power of Assumption is the name of the chapter. And it says, man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. I want you to take that for your reflection time. We're going to end right around here because this is really good. Because then we'll get into making your future dream a present fact, and that's all about assumption. But think about this: the chief delusion of humankind is is your conviction that there are causes other than your own state of consciousness, and it's just not the case. And that's why I often say humankind is walking around as unconscious competence and some very, very incompetent because they don't realize this. They don't know this. They don't understand it. They don't realize there is a certain way of living the life you would love to live personally and professionally. And it all has to do with your state of consciousness. There's feeling and emotion involved, of course, but it's your state of consciousness. There are not other causes. You get to choose your state of consciousness. And we're going to talk about that more moving forward. This is just really exciting stuff for me. Maybe because it's my field, but it's just every once in a while I just look at what's happening outside of me. I'm one of those individuals that strives every day to really live from the inside out and practice what I preach, to model and demonstrate and live what I talk about on this show. But I do, as an observer, look around and say, oh man, the unconsciousness is almost unbearable. If people would take responsibility and choose, and I'm not talking about this from you know condescending or being think of superiority or anything of that. Not at all. I'm talking about this from the standpoint of, hey, grasp these elements that are basic fundamental law to how we're all showing up in the world. And you can experience radical personal and professional transformation, and you can make quantum leaps when it comes to goal achievement and what's showing up in your life. And this is your personal life, your professional life, your small business life, your corporate life. So I'd pay really close attention because in all those in all those areas of our lives, these laws are essential. They're working whether you are ignorant of them, whether you are working with them or not, whether you are conscious of them or not. It's how things show up in your life. This is how it works. This is not something that's theory. This is absolute fact. So if you want to make some changes, if you want to move from where you are now, personally or professionally, stay tuned. We're going to talk about all this stuff moving forward. And I'm excited to do so. And I'm excited to take you along with me. You want to talk about this one on one? You feel stuck. Maybe you've been listening for a long time and you just want something different. And you don't know why you get to a certain point and that's as far as you get, and you're still not living the life you would love to live. Reach out. Let's have an appointment. Let's have a conversation. Successappointment.com gets you on my calendar, and use that for anything. Successappointment.com. Let's just talk. Let's just have a conversation, you and I, private conversation, and we'll talk about what you want, what you desire in your life, personally or professionally. And we'll talk about, hey, maybe in your corporate environment, where's the next group of leaders going to come from? Some of the statistics I can share with you on where the mindset is of our current workforce would blow you away. How about not being able to go more than 3 minutes without checking a communication device, a smartphone, an email, a message, a text, social media? This stuff will blow you away. Maybe it's time I come in and do a keynote or do a workshop where we put in place an in-house training program. That's what I do with as a proud franchisee of Leadership Management International. Of course, my company is Success Ocean International, a franchisee of Leadership Management International. Do work with individuals, small businesses, and corporations all over the world. So reach out, successappointment.com, and stay tuned to this show. Tremendous value, and don't dismiss it since you don't have to pay for it. That's what most people do. So let's come together. We're all students, we're all teachers. Let's live and learn from each other. Put some comments in the comment section. Share this with friends and come on back next week as we take a deeper dive into imagination, assumption, feeling, and manifestation. For now, remember, you've been listening to the Genesis Frequency, and this is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmino, wishing you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless.